feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off it. Moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it. So don't stop. Under the lights when everything goes. Nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move where you already know. So just imagine. Nothing I can see but you when you dance. Feel the good creeping up on you. So just dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do, but you dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance. I can't stop the feeling. So just dance. I can't stop the feeling. Yeah. So keep dancing.
Of course you're allowed to dance. That's a great first question.
I can't stop the nothing I can see but you when you dance.
Okay, hello everybody and welcome. It is 3:01, so we'll go ahead and get started today. Good afternoon and thank you so much for joining us for UT Police's National Night Out. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let me get all of my screens up here. Okay. Every first Tuesday in October is National Night Out in the state of Texas. So yes, I realize it is not officially night yet, but we decided to have ours begin early this year so that everyone is able to attend your neighborhood National Night Out if you'd like. My name is Victoria and I am going to be your host today. And with me at the moment is my great friend, McGruff the Crime Dog. Hey McGruff, thanks for joining us today. Are you excited to learn about some campus safety? Yes, me too. I know you have a lot of other neighborhoods to visit tonight also, and I appreciate you stopping by ours. And I know if we don't see you on camera later anymore, then maybe you have to head out to those other neighborhoods, and that's okay. We appreciate you being here. Thanks, McGraw. The purpose of National Night Out every year is to promote police and community partnerships and camaraderie to make the community a safer, more caring place to both live and work. This year, we've themed the event the Safety Showcase because we wanted to highlight campus safety and give crime prevention information to you all, our MD Anderson and UTHealth Houston campus communities. Several of our outstanding team members will be presenting to you today, including Officer Manny Leston. He's going to lead the safety showcase today. He's going to be highlighting our community outreach offerings because he is also our community outreach officer. We also have Inspector Viola Douglas, who's going to talk to you about the Clery Act, which is in place for campuses to provide crime statistics. And you know what, McGraw? I'd never even heard of the Clery Act before we started working for a police department. I'm so happy Inspector Douglas is here to tell us all about it. From there, Inspector Covell Johnson is going to give us some crime stats and let us know what UT Police is doing to mitigate or lessen these crimes from happening. And then Captain Doran Preacher is going to end the event with some theft statistics on campus and hopefully have some time to answer a few questions. Speaking of questions, anytime you have one there in the audience, please enter it into the Q&A. We'll either answer it live or we will get back to you at the end of the event, but rest assured we will answer your question, okay? All just depends on time. And with that, let's get to this National Night Out Safety Showcase. Let's get it started with Officer Manny Leston. All right, Manny, take it away.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Let's go ahead and move forward. I like to start off with what I call an instant chat coffee with a cop, right? And so a question I have for everyone, and we do have that Q&A there, so you can enter your information in there as well. Question I have for everyone is, does anybody know here, what is the year that UT Police got to start? What was the year that UT Police was created? I often get a lot of different responses. A lot of times we get, in the same decade, there was an entire class at the UT School of Dentistry a while back, over 100 people there. And almost everybody was guessing within the same decade. So within the first decade of the 2000s, but any guesses what it could be? Any guesses in that Q&A? No guesses. All right, here we go. We got something. Oh, in that chat, we do have that chat feature, don't we? Yes, that chat feature is there as well. There we go. We got different responses there. A lot of different responses. All right, 82, 69, 1980, 1963. And Matthew got it. Very good. 1967, where Texas legislature approved the UT police system based on an incident that occurred the year prior at the UT Austin campus in 1966, where there was a student with a high-powered rifle, a lot of ammunition, randomly proceed to shoot, kill, and injure several people. So as a result of that, the following year, in 1967, is where Texas legislature approved the UT police system, and that's how we got our start. So thank you, everybody, for participating right there. We do appreciate that. Some of you may know where UT Police at Houston is located. I'm going to share with you on our website. You can see it. It's if you go to utph.org, when you go there, you'll be able to see a lot of resources for our website. Here we go. Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm sharing properly. Yep, I believe I am, right? Everybody can probably see that. So that's what our headquarters looks like right there in that image. We're located at 7777 Knight Road. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page on our website here, you'll get the address, 7777 Knight Road. And that's what the building looks like on a beautiful day. It's got those two flagpoles in the front. As soon as you approach the building and you go beyond those trees there, there's a door to your left. As you go beyond that door, there's a phone and a directory, and you can reach a party that way. So if you travel southbound on Fannin, you get to the corner of Old Spanish Trail. We are located caddy corner on your left at 7777 Knight Road. Yeah, and that's what the building looks like. So visit our website, utph.org. And when you visit our website, you'll be able to see the various programs, resources that we do have. For example, there is a Lost and Found program, and this is the homepage to the website. As you can see, there's articles here that are written right there that you can click on, that are highlighted. But if you go to the found property section right here, you can click on there. You can actually search for any property that you may have lost. It is right there. All right. And when it opens up and it looks like this, and you can search for your property. If you wanted to, if you believe one of the items that you identify as yours, then you can call the number right here, 713-745-8302, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you follow the instructions there, letting them know about your property. Also, you can report our 24-hour, 7-day phone number, 713-792-2890, non-emergency phone number. It's to report, for example, any lost and found, any lost items, or anything else regarding non-emergency related to UT Police, 713-792-2890. So once again, if you're at the homepage and you scroll down over here, you can click on the found property search area. Non-emergency phone number, 713-792-2890. I repeat that number quite a bit and throughout my talks. And of course, in an emergency, the number to call is 911, right? 911 in an emergency. That's the phone number to call. When you do visit our website and you click on the campus safety section, when you go there, you can actually see the calendar of upcoming classes that we do have scheduled for general audiences, right, throughout the weeks for that particular month. So various classes. So you can see here, if you see a date that you have availability, you click on that class and you can register for that class. These are some of the classes that we have scheduled for October here for general audiences. Of course, we take requests. So if you were to go to the safety class section here, you can actually see the various classes that you can request for your department, staff meetings. Some of you may have staff meetings that you actually get guest speakers for. So you can request any of our classes. And when you click on any of the classes, for example, our active shooter prevention and response presentation. That's how to survive an active shooter situation. You keep scrolling down. We have a bicycle, a pedestrian safety class, conflict and relationships, the domestic violence class. We have a nonviolent crisis intervention. We have Don't Fall For It. It's a scam presentation called Don't Fall For It, Scams and How to Spot Them. Today, General Campus Safety is another one. And when you do click, for example, on any of these, like the General Campus Safety one, you'll be able to see the various resources that there are for the classes. Identity theft is another class that we have, or verbal de-escalation class, called non-escalation de-escalation crisis management. And several classes. We have another class which is called Speaking Up, Breaking the Silence, and Sexual Violence. We have a travel safety class, how to travel safely. And we have a weather specific presentation called Weather the Storm, Resiliency in Unfavorable Weather Conditions. So let's go back to the General Campus Safety class, because when you click on any of these classes, it gives you resources on how to stay safe for that particular topic. So General Campus Safety brings it up, and you can see what the course objectives are, but as well as printable materials on various safety tips and external resources. If you click on, for example, let's say parking garage and parking lot safety, it'll give you this handout here where you can see the various ways that you can stay safe in a parking lot and a parking garage as well, and so forth. It gives you various tips on how to stay safe throughout the garages. And so we have a lot of different topics on safety and printable materials for General Campus Safety on tips on how to remain safe. And speaking of tips on how to remain safe, you remember when you were in elementary school, you learned about the fire triangle? There's 3 elements for a fire to occur. What are they? They're heat, fuel, and oxygen, right? If you remove any of them, then you don't have a fire. Well, when it comes to crime, there's what is known as a crime triangle. In our crime triangle, there's 3 elements: desire, ability, and opportunity. Desire, ability, opportunity. We can only affect one of them, right? Which one of them can we affect? Is it desire, ability, or opportunity? It's going to be opportunity, right? We really can't do anything about somebody's desire to commit a crime against you. We really can't do anything about their ability to commit that crime. There's going to be physical skills, cognitive acuity, that type of thing. But the one thing that we can affect is that opportunity. By removing that opportunity, then hopefully you don't have a crime, right? So, for example, speaking of crimes of opportunity, thefts, right? Like a theft, crime of opportunity, what can we do about that? Well, one of the things that can help us out with that is securing our valuables, securing our belongings, right? If we can do that, hopefully we can remove that opportunity for that crime to occur. And sometimes we say, oh, we'll be right back. Oh, we'll be right back. And we leave our areas, our valuables unsecured and unattended. That's all it takes. It doesn't really take long for somebody to walk into that area, to remove your valuables, to remove your belongings. So secure your belongings. We really can't stress that enough. Remove that opportunity for that crime to occur. Right? As you're out and about, paying attention to your surroundings. Can't really stress that enough. Paying attention to your surroundings. Sometimes we're on our cell phones, so we're not really paying attention to our surroundings. We're distracted by our cell phones or whatever it may be. Put it away, talk, text later, and especially in spaces of transition. If you're going from one location to another, maybe you're walking from a building to a garage, parking lot to a building, whatever it may be. And as you're out and about, right, try and make yourself a harder target by paying attention to your surroundings, paying attention to who's paying attention to you as you're out and about, right? So walking with confidence. How do we do that? Well, we can use some good posture, strong body language as you're out and about. Walking with confidence, using strong body language, paying attention to surroundings, paying attention to who's paying attention to you, and removing distractions from our hands and so forth as we're out and about. So that's some tips for you here today. Really appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you for your time. Stay safe.
Great tips, Officer Leston. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming by and giving us those tips. Did you like those tips, McGruff? Did you learn anything new? All right, always good about learning. All righty, next up, let us get this going here. Let me share the right screen. Here we go. Is that sharing correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Officer Lester. Next up, we have the Jean Cleary Act and Inspector Viola Douglas. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, and that was great information, Manny. Thank you for all those safety tips. Good afternoon and welcome to National Night Out 2022. I'm Viola Douglas. I'm an inspector with UT Police Department Administrative Services. And this evening or today, I will give a brief discussion on the Cleary Act. Specifically, what is the Cleary Act? Why is it important? Where and how you can find a copy of the annual security report. All right, you can move to the first slide. All right. So the Cleary Act. The Cleary Act, originally the Crime Awareness and Campus Security Act of 1990, is named after 19-year-old college student Jean Cleary, who was raped and brutally murdered in her dorm room at Lee University, April 5th, 1986. Her school didn't inform the students and employees of that university about 38 crimes that had occurred on that campus 3 years before her murder. Jean's parents discovered that there were gaps in the consistent reporting of violent crimes and statistics for post-secondary institutions. They were on a mission. Connie and Howard Cleary began efforts to strengthen the laws requiring colleges and universities to make complete information about violent campus crime and other security information available to current and prospective employees and students of the universities. The Clearys championed the Jean Cleary Disclosure of Campus Security Policy and Crime Statistics Act, Cleary Act, in Jean's memory. The act is a landmark federal law that requires higher learning institutions that participate in Title IV student financial assistance programs to report crimes that occur on and around the campuses. The Cleary Act also requires schools to send timely warnings to school communities where there are known risks to public safety on campus and the surrounding areas. On March 7, 2013, Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2013 included some amendments to the Cleary Act. These changes required institutions to disclose incidents involving domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and sexual assault. Other information that needs to be included are any arrests and referrals for disciplinary action involving weapons, drug violations, and liquor law violations. Now, some of the things that are required of the institution by the Cleary Act, and we've got a list of them here. They must publish and distribute an annual campus security and safety report by October 1 of each year. We spent a lot of time this week making sure that we met that deadline and we got that information out. They must inform prospective students and employees about the campus security and fire security reports. They must issue timely warnings to alert the campus community about crimes that pose a serious or continuing threat to the safety of the community. They must also keep a crime log that records by date reported all crimes reported to the campus, police, or security department. They must also keep a fire log that records by date reported all fires in and on campus student facilities. In addition to that, they must have an emergency notification and evacuation protocols for alerting the campus community about significant emergencies or dangerous situations. They also must have in place primary and ongoing prevention and awareness programs and campaigns for students and employees. That's what Manny was doing for us today. They must also collect crime reports from campus security authorities within the institution and request crime statistics from local law enforcement in jurisdictions where the institutions are located. They also must submit crime and fire statistics to the department via a web-based data collection site. They must have in place a missing student notification procedures to aid in determining if a student is missing and how they would notify law enforcement personnel. They must also have procedures for institutional disciplinary action in cases of dating violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. Now, failure to comply with these requirements of clearing, the Department of Education can issue civil fines for up to $35,000 per violation. Where can you find this information? You can go to utph.org, MD Anderson Annual Security Report, or UTHealth Houston Security and Fire Safety Report. You may also obtain a copy in person here at University of Texas Police Department, and we're located at 777 Knight Road. We're the building with the large, long flag right out front. And upon request, any portion of the crime log that is older than 60 days will be made available for public inspection within 2 days. So if you'd like to get a report from us, come to UT, we'd be happy to give it to you, or go to the website and get a report. I encourage everyone to read the report. Good information, valuable information, need to know information. And that's all I have. Thank you, Victoria.
Wonderful. And if anybody has any questions about the query, that was excellent information, Inspector Douglas. We appreciate you very much. Make sure you write it in the Q&A, or the chat feature is also up and running. I apologize for that, but everybody should be able to write in there now. All righty. Next up, we have Crime on Campus with Inspector Cobell Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Rawls. Thank you, Ms. Rawls, and also thank you to Inspector Douglas. Again, that was great information. It also shows the audience how universities are held at a higher standard when reporting crime to them. Is also what we have to do here at University of Texas Police Department as far as mitigating strategies. We just don't take in reports of violent crime or property crimes. We have to institute mitigating strategies to try to rectify, to make not only the campus safe, but the community around the campus safe. I'm Inspector Cobell Johnson. I am the supervisor over the Criminal Investigations Division. Some on this presentation may have spoken with me before. I've worked on one of the teams to help resolve a lot of the criminal activity, not only on campus, but in and around campus, as well as to our regional clinics and regional house. Next slide, please. With this being the National Night Out, I wanted to give an overview of what's going on in the country nationally, and then start working in locally and kind of talk about some of the drivers that's causing some of the increase in crime. We all have been watching the local news, state news, and national news, and we all see crime seems to be increasing here in the Houston area. What's kind of causing that? If some of you are out on social media or in your local communities, you may have some of the neighborhood apps like Nextdoor, and you're constantly seeing people reporting that someone is either breaking into a car or they've stolen a catalytic converter. And I kind of want to put some context to what's kind of going on nationally, and then bring it down to a local level and here in the TMC. And also, what is UT Police doing about some of those crimes, and also show you some of the outcomes, some of the individuals that we've identified and arrested. So on this first slide, what you see here is the 2020 Uniform Crime Report. This data is reported by all police agencies to the FBI. And you can see clearly here that per 1,000 people, Houston is leading in violent crime category. But I want you to take a look how Dallas, as well as San Antonio, also made this list. And if you look lower, you'll see Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, who historically has been known as violent cities, but Houston kind of led in this area. If you look over on the property crime side, you'll see where Houston led in property crime reports. And then you look at San Antonio and Dallas. And then you look down there and you see where New York and Los Angeles, again, who historically had always been an area that has reported higher crime than Houston. Cobell, why is that? Well, a lot of that has to do with the pandemic. A lot of that has to do with the economy. Where there's a strong economy, people are going to come. Texas has shown through the pandemic to be a strong economy. And if you look nationally, you see people who have migrated from California, from the Midwest, up in places like Michigan, where people are starting to relocate to Texas for better opportunities. Well, anytime you have a large population of people, you're going to have more crime. Also, we all know that Texas, along with Florida, were some of the first states to reopen after COVID. Some of those other states that you see listed were still in lockdown, so folks were not in common areas or out at the shopping malls or out at Walmart or places like that. So it lessened their opportunities to be victimized. As Officer Manny pointed out earlier, criminals seek out opportunity. Next slide, please. Here you look locally, we take a look at the violent crime rate reported to the Houston Police Department, being that they're one of the largest law enforcement agencies here in this Houston and Greater Houston area. And you see that the violent crime reported to the Houston Police Department in comparison to 2021 to 2022 was lower, was a lower crime rate. Well, why was that? Again, going and looking at the data, you notice that people were not in common areas during 2021 because of COVID. They were more at home. We had more people working remotely. A lot more businesses had pivoted and went to e-commerce. But then in 2022, what happened? People started coming out. The state opened back up. People returned back to work. We all know if you drive into work like I do, commuting in, you're on the road more longer than you were before. You've seen more road rage incidents being reported. More people are out shopping, so there's more opportunities for people to encounter people. And then again, coming out of those issues, those individuals are subject to more crime. Next slide, please. I wanted to highlight these two. Although violent crime, far as aggravated assaults, were down here in Houston, murders were up by 5% reported from last year. Again, it's because more people are out than they were previously, giving more opportunities. People are having more issues and stressors that they're dealing with. And so that's why you see the murder rate here in Houston is going up. The population is increasing here in Houston. You have more people out and about encountering each other. And so that's why you see some of those increases here locally. Next slide, please. Let's compare violent crime being reported to HPD versus violent crime being reported to UTPD to show how we fared. When you look here in 2021 and 2022, a number of violent crime offenses reported to the Houston Police Department. But when you look here over here at UTPD, you see that the violent crime being reported to our agency went down. A lot of that is because of some of the strategies that UTPD, along with our stakeholders and our behavioral intervention teams, being early in and identifying possible trends in the workplace violence, also dealing with some of our high stress individuals over at our ACPC facility with our healthcare providers, being able to intervene early. We saw that there was a decrease in violent crimes being reported to UTPD. Next slide, please. Let's talk about property crime reported to the Houston Police Department. Well, there you see there was a considerable increase from 2021 to 2022 across every category in property crime. Officer Manuel Leston spoke to this earlier about opportunity. Well, what happened? Coming out of the pandemic, a lot of individuals received pandemic assistance. They received PPP loans, and also their jobs also provided assistance or rental assistance. Well, you see in 22, a lot of those assistance programs went away, but a lot of those jobs did not return. When you go into your local Walmart or your shopping center, a lot of businesses went to self-checkout. Why? Because that model worked. A lot of businesses went to e-commerce. So a lot of businesses that had warehouse work for more entry-level job positions, they outsourced those jobs. So now what happens? You have this high concentration of people. You have less opportunities for these entry-level positions. And so people are going to take opportunities that they have. If you see people posting things on their ring.com, you can see in some of your more suburban communities or in the residential communities, you see a lot more burglaries of motor vehicles and more home break-ins. Another reason is because most people have returned back to work. Most students have returned back to campuses. So there's an opportunity for these type of crimes to increase. Also with vehicle thefts, you see a great increase in vehicle theft and vehicle part thefts. Why is that? If you've tried to purchase a car in the last 9 months, there's not a lot of inventory of vehicles at auto dealerships. If you've tried to have your car serviced here in the last 9 months, there's normally a 1 month to 2 month hold on certain parts. So that created a black market. You see Catalina converters being stolen. You can see high-end parts off vehicles that are being stolen, that are being resold on the black market, which has caused the property crimes in the greater Houston area and the Houston area to increase. Next slide, please. Okay, let's look at these two. And I just spoke about this. You see where motor vehicle thefts increased by 9% in the Houston area. And then when you look at the theft from the motor vehicle percentage, it increased by 50%. Again, these there's a market that was ripe for criminals, and criminals pivot. They don't always stay in one lane. If you notice, Catalina converters is one of the things that individuals are stealing, along with other parts. We have a lot of pickup trucks here in the greater Houston area. We're seeing a lot more pickup trucks being stolen. The tailgates to replace those are about $3,500. And so there's a black market. And then you have different avenues. You can do direct to consumer purchases now. If a lot of folks on this call are familiar with things like OfferUp, those databases are not currently being actively monitored by law enforcement. Law enforcement used to use tools. All pawn shops and secondhand stores have to report to law enforcement the sales of transaction of bought items. But now you can show up in a parking lot, and if you stole something, you can sell it directly to someone and create a fictitious name or fictitious online profile, and no one would know. So this is what's causing some of the property crimes to increase in the greater Houston area. Next slide, please. How did we fare? When you look at the property crimes reported to HPD versus the property crime reported here to UTPD, you see that we were not immune to that. You see that there was an increase in property crimes reported both on the UTHealth side as well as the MD Anderson side. And again, that's a lot of folks that have returned back to campus. We've allowed more visitors into our buildings. We're seeing more patients. The students have returned, as well as individuals that were working remotely. And so we're going to see an increase in those type of crimes being reported to our agency. Next slide, please. So I wanted to look at a snapshot of a closer look at the data and look how UTPD, knowing all the information that I've shared with you, how are we faring here in the TMC areas as UTPD protects our campus using our combined protection model. I looked at data within a 2-mile radius within the Texas Medical Center and our campus buildings. And as you can see, and this data is coming from TMC Police and as well as the Houston Police Department. And if you look in these categories, you can see a considerable amount of crime being reported in the TMC area, but UTPD is doing an exceptional job of mitigating that and keeping a lot of the crime away. You look right there at burglaries of a motor vehicle. This was just from January to July. There was over 1,490 burglaries of motor vehicles within 2 miles within the Texas Medical Center, whereas 24 B&Bs were reported throughout our entire campus, both MD Anderson and UT. And I'm going to talk about some of the arrests we made there. If you look over at the theft of motor vehicles, You look at, there's 389 theft of motor vehicles just between January and July within the TMC area. Why? There's a lot of parking garages. Criminals know that individuals park their cars at various TMC surface lots or parking garage and know that they're going to be gone for extended periods of time. They know that patients may come for long time appointments. So it's a target rich environment. Within that same time period, UTPD only received 3 theft of motor vehicles, and we were able to resolve and solve those offenses pretty quickly. Next slide, please. This is just another visualization just to kind of give a map and plotting the data that I spoke to earlier. And I just looked here at June and July, showing just as a cluster, as you can see, again, this is a 2-mile radius of all the crime that's being reported in and around the TMC area. Yet UT Police Department, with our combined protection model of uniform security, our patrol officers, our plainclothes officers, and as well as you guys out there being our eyes and ears of see something, say something, and reporting suspicious activity to us in a timely manner has kept the campus safe from these areas around us. Next slide, please. Okay, a look behind the data, and I was talking about this before. The population kinetic shifts inhibit daytime residential burglary, giving a rise to more aggression and crime related to motor vehicles. That's where I was talking about how more people have now left out of their homes. There's more people parking now, going to those opportunities where most people a year ago were at home working remotely, where they could keep their eyes and ears on their property. Precious metal prices have spiked. This led to a dramatic surge in Catalina converter thefts from motor vehicles. That's what the driver is. There's the cost of those precious metals are more, making it more lucrative. UTPD, we participate in a Catalina converter task force with several local agencies. And what we learned through that initiative was that a lot of the local gang members no longer are committing active robberies where they could take and run the risk of potentially being arrested. They're now realizing that if they steal a Catalina converter, they can get anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, but because it's a property crime, the punishment phase is less than committing an actual robbery. So we're seeing a lot of local street gangs pivot and move to more property crime because it's a little bit more lucrative. Also, the proximity to the metro platform on Fannin Street and Braeswood has attracted a more transient population and opportunist criminals. If any of you have used the Metro Rail, you kind of know what I'm talking about, where if you in Midtown or you're along the rail, you see that there's a large population of transients. When these individuals are panhandling and they do not receive money or they can't get food, they do wander over onto property, not just our campus, but some of the other our other institutions here in the TMC area. And if they see a place open or they can get in, they will come in and steal. Also, Inspector Douglas spoke about this in her presentation. I saw that we had a lot of thefts being reported. What's going on? Well, because of the Jenny Clary Act, we here at UTPD, we report through transparency and ethically any crime that's reported to us. Certain agencies, they don't take crime reports when someone reports that their lunch or a minor thing has been stolen from them. But here, because of our caring and our core values, we take in those reports and we do investigate them. I'm going to show here in a moment some cases that we've been successful from. And a lot of agencies, just because of the sheer volume of crime being reported, they don't have the bandwidth or the resources to investigate those cases fully. But here at UTPD, we take every crime that's being reported to us seriously, and we definitely do investigate that. Next slide, please. Here in the TMC area at our regional house, our UT clinics, and our parking garage, UTPD combined protection model. We adapted that protection model to address some of those increase in crime and property crimes in the TMC area. We increased our directed patrols with our uniformed patrol officers and plainclothes officers in and around garages that were concerned of our institutional stakeholders. We dedicated, some folks may have saw some of our officers over at the Pressler Garage or UCT Garage, where we stationed patrol officers in those garages to ward off potential criminals or transients that were in those areas. We also used technology. We leveraged our camera trailer. Some of you may have seen our camera trailers out at some of our UTHealth clinics or our regional house to combat concerns and issues out there. And what that allows us to do is use technology and conduct virtual patrols. Our dispatchers have all been well versed and well trained, and if they spot suspicious vehicles or they see suspicious people entering to these places, they will notify the officers that are assigned there or notify police officers so they can respond to those areas to give us a more broad, wider coverage. Our camera enhancement, UT Police has upgraded and integrated a new camera system across our lobbies and our main buildings across our campuses. This allows UT Police to easily identify known offenders to our campus or potential risks to our campus that we need to immediately address. It also aids us in quickly identifying individuals that have come on our campus to create criminal misconduct. UTPD also has participated in risk assessments across campus. We've done this with all of our garages and all of our buildings. Some of you may have participated in some of our active shooter preparedness training. As you know, in light of the Uvalde shooting, a lot of clinics, a lot of folks on campus were concerned about our response to those type of incidents. So we went out and looked at our vulnerabilities, looking to shore up the gaps to see where we can support the concerns of the institution, as well as ensure that we could respond to those incidents and those concerns that the community had. We looked at some of our regional care clinics, and we increased barriers, mainly over at our West Houston location, where we created choke points where we could funnel so we could visually see cars that were coming in and out of the parking lot for some concerns that were raised out there. Also, we looked at areas where FARs could be implemented to create improvements in the security and the layouts of certain buildings that were existing or coming online. Next slide, please. Some of the successful mitigation measures. Covell, you talked a lot about Catalina converter thefts. On March the 11th, UTPD plainclothes officers, along with our patrol officers, we were having an increase in thefts at one of our parking garages here on campus. We set out to identify these individuals that were targeting the campus. And on March 11th, we arrested 3 known Catalina converter theft suspects. These suspects had over 40 prior arrests, burglary of motor vehicles. The items that you see featured here, they had, these are tools of the trade to cut off a Catalina converter. They had a handsaw, they had a jack that could lift up the vehicle, and they also displayed paper tags. These paper tags are fraudulent. It allows individuals to go through communities, and when law enforcement runs their license plate, it doesn't come back to anything. The other video, the picture that you see there is one of the offenders was actually getting out of the vehicle when he was lifting up and broke off the gate arm. When I talk about that combined protection model and how we're using our video enhancement to leverage, it was one of our dispatchers who was monitoring this garage while our officer set up and called it in and said the suspects are entering the garage, and we took those individuals into custody. Also, when I talked about earlier about certain type of crime, this next group was we arrested over 9 separate individuals who were targeting the bike racks on campus. Although a lot of people say, well, Kobe, you guys are investigating bicycle thefts on campus. Yes, because our students, our faculty and staff, they use bicycles as a means of transportation. So when they are targeting those bike racks on campus, we're going to respond. We have a proactive bait bike that we deploy in and around campus to address those concerns. And we've made over 30 arrests with that initiative. Here on March 7th, little typo there, was in 2022, there was an auto theft that occurred out at one of our garages, and our officers, within 4 hours after this report came in, we started a full-on search, not just within the TMC area, but in and around the surrounding areas, and was able to arrest this offender. Another individual on February 25th, individual had stole a vehicle from the UT Professional Building, and one of our alert sergeants, with as immediately as this report came in, spotted the vehicle traveling southbound on Fannin, initiated a traffic stop, and multiple officers responded and took that individual into custody. Both of those motor vehicle thefts, both of those individuals were habitual career criminals that we were able to get off the street. Next slide, please. Successful mitigation strategy maximize our combined protection model. In February 24, 2021, we had a disgruntled family member who believed in the sovereign citizen doctrine. This is where I talk about where we work with our threat management team, who identifies threats and risks to both institutions, as well as work with the triage team and the two-stop team about potential risks coming from family members who may be targeting individuals on campus. This individual, he did not want care provided to his mother. He was making statements that he wanted to remove his mother from care. He also made threats against staff. He made threats against the courts, and he also made threats against the care providers. That case was worked tirelessly by our threat management team, as well as our CID team. That individual was taken into custody. That individual is currently still in the Harris County Jail, and that threat was mitigated by that combined protection model. Here on June 30th, July the 22nd, and August 3rd, again, expanding our reach. UTPD had received reports of individuals, although we don't own the TMC garages, because those individuals are part of our community. They had reported those incidents to the TMC police, and we leveraged our investigative abilities to identify those individuals who stole those 4 vehicles. The individual who stole those cars was an 8-man auto theft ring that was not only targeting the TMC area, they were targeting all of South Houston. They had developed a technique where they were able to disable the OnStar tracking within the vehicles that they stole. They were also able to also reprogram the keyless entry to those vehicles. We watched hours and hours of surveillance video, and we're able to link it back to 8 known suspects. And then we partnered up with our partners at the Houston Police Department Auto Theft Task Force, who said that that group was a known group that was running a chop shop over in South Houston. All offenders were arrested. All of them were sent to prison. And again, we arrested about 8 individuals related to those thefts that were targeting the TMC area auto thefts. On April 27th, 2021, the individual that you see here in the lower right, again, this goes back to what Officer Manuel Leston talked about. When we see something, say something. This individual blended himself in as a family member and entered into MD Anderson Hospital. This individual exposed himself to another visitor, leveraging video and facial recognition software, as well as social media, and then harvesting police reports in the surrounding areas of an individual matching his description. We were able to identify this known offender to TMC. This offender had targeted Texas children the year before, and we were able to file additional charges on him. He also was arrested. He's also in jail awaiting trial. Next slide, please. Okay, let me cue this video up before we play it. This is a burglary that occurred on September the 2nd. This is at the Zayed building. The Zayed Research Building is a card access secure building. The reason that I wanted to share this video with this audience, because oftentimes our uniformed security officers at our buildings oftentimes screen people and ask them to present their ID or ask them to display their ID, as well as that we asked our workforce members, if you see someone entering into your area that's a restricted area, it's not a common area, it's not a lobby, it's okay to ask someone, are you here to see someone, or you don't have an ID badge, you need to go around and check in. We're not asking anyone to get in any confrontations or to stop anyone, but I want to share with you how easily it is for someone to enter in the building. Also, we talk about when you're heading out for lunch or you're leaving out of your office for a meeting, to secure your property and secure your belongings, because I want you to take close attention at the time frame. This individual, Mr. David Miles Patton, he's a career habitual thief and burglar. He has over 40 arrests. He not only targets the TNC area, he targets Memorial Hermann hospitals, he targets Methodist Hospital and St. Luke's Hospital. Go ahead and play the video. This is Mr. David Miles Patton. He was able to disguise himself as an employee, but you're going to notice as David Miles Patton is walking through this area, he does not have on an ID badge. And I'm pretty sure that folks on this floor had possibly never saw him before. We are our best defense. You know who you work in and around with, you know who works in your spaces. When you see someone that you don't believe belongs there, or they look like they're out of place, or they look like they're looking for someone, it's okay to acknowledge them and say, hi, how can I help you? Is there someone you're looking for? I haven't seen you up here. And clearly, if you don't feel comfortable, contact UTPD immediately, and we will send an officer to that location to identify that person on campus. Mr. David Miles Patton, he found an office that was unsecured. He's rummaging through that office. He did steal items from that office. You're going to see him come out here into these areas of cubicles. Again, this is just for awareness. This is a real world video. This is a real criminal that was on campus. You're going to see him rummaging through a desk drawer that was unlocked, and he's going to find a wallet here, and he's going to go through that wallet. And he's going to keep going through there while, and he's very quick, when he enters these areas. The ruse that he loves to use, if you notice, he has a clipboard in his hand. He likes to tell individuals that he's here looking for work. He's turned around, he's looking for HR. I often tell people to use your knowledge, your institutional knowledge, understand the environment we live in. The average person looking for a job is going to Google where they need to go. An HR interview is going to tell you the address. If you have somebody in an area telling you something like that, and you know on the MD Anderson side, they're not at, at 1MC, or on the UTHealth side, they're not at UCT where we know HR is, more than likely this person is not supposed to be here on campus, and contact UTPD immediately. That's why we promoted the see something, say something. And he's there for quite some time. Well, Covell, where is everyone? They're out for lunch. So keep that in mind. And he stole a laptop bag, and then he immediately leaves out of the area. Next slide, please. This is a different look at Mr. David Miles Patton. These are some of the offenders. Again, earlier I showed you guys the number of increase in thefts that were on campus, and these were some of those responsible for those thefts. A non-affiliate, Mr. Calvin Rosette, he had disguised himself as a contractor. He entered into, again, another restricted access area. Well, Covell, how did he get in? Someone allowed him in. When we look back at that video, it wasn't an employee. They did not know him. He presented himself at the door. They did not look for any badge, and they felt like, hey, this guy looked the part. He must belong here. We cannot do that on campus. It's too easily for individuals to come in. That's why we have the card readers. That's why we ask individuals to show ID. That's why we have our uniformed security officers challenging people when we don't see a ID displayed. And I know it gets tired sometimes. Maybe you've worked at a particular building for more than 5 years and you feel like, hey, you guys should know me by now. I come here every day. But look how these individuals are able to move in and around campus. This is why we challenge people. A housekeeper who was identified for stealing, we linked them to 5 thefts on campus. That's why we ask people, if you have valuables in your desk drawer, please lock them up and secure them when you're leaving out for the day. A patient's boyfriend was identified for stealing while visiting his girlfriend. This was when this individual would come on the campus to visit a patient, he would wander throughout the campus and he would show up in other areas. Now, this is a part about see something, say something. When we conducted that investigation, when we circled back to the care team of that patient, several people had concerns about this individual, saying that he was staying on campus late at night. They would see him in certain areas where the patient wasn't. Those are things that you can report out. Let us do the investigation. Let us look into it and find out, because when it later came out, this individual, what he was doing, he was using his credentialing bands to get in places, and then he would start shoplifting and stealing. Again, Mr. David Miles Patton, this is him in the still photos. You see him leaving out of Zayed building. And then we had an unfortunate event where we had an employee that we identified as an insider threat. This employee was a PCA that was monitoring patients, and this individual unfortunately was victimizing some of the patients here on campus. We saw a crime trend occurring in that area where there was more than 5 to 6 reports. We aggressively and tirelessly investigated those cases. We identified her, and then at that point, she was arrested, and she's currently still awaiting trial as well, and she's been terminated. Next slide, please. Okay, so what can we do, Covell? How can I help? Participate in your own safety. Do not allow anyone to follow you into a secure area after you use your ID badge. Require identification before admitting someone unexpected or unfamiliar to you in your workspace. That's how David Miles Patton got into Zayed. He presented himself at the door. Somebody saw that he couldn't get in. They did not ask him for an ID. They allowed him in. When he went to the elevator bank, an employee did not see he had on an ID badge, so they pushed the floor for him. Please do not do that. If you see someone and they do not have the proper badge to get into an area, they don't have the proper badging because that's for a reason. They should not be there. Be aware of your surroundings, especially if you are alone or it is dark. These are for individuals who are working late at night or coming in early in the morning. Again, avoid using headphones or cell phones or other mobile devices while walking, driving, or jogging. This keeps you alert. It keeps you alert to people that are approaching you. It also keeps you alert to people who might be in the garage, who you might, and it also may also give you an opportunity. If there's a crime that was reported later, there may be something you can recall when you were passing or walking by. Do not walk alone at night. Stay in lit walk areas or contact UTPD. We do provide an escort for individuals who don't feel safe and want to ride to and from their vehicles. Also, trust your instincts. If you feel uncomfortable in a place or situation, leave right away. If you see any suspicious person or vehicles, contact UTPD immediately. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inspector Johnson. Woo. If you have any if you have any questions for us, please write. Inspector Johnson will get to you then, or we will email you afterwards and get some information to you. That was a lot of information, and it was well said. Thank you. Now we have, for the theft alert, Captain Doran Preacher here to give us a little bit more information about thefts happening on campus. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. Wonderful job, Covell. I'm bringing up the rear. I have just a few slides. Inspector Johnson covered in depth national crime, state crime, then the local crime 2 miles around us. Then he touched on some of the crimes that have impacted us on campus. So what I want to do before I get into my slides is just highlight some of the big takeaways that I hope you got from Covell's presentation. It can be kind of scary hearing the crime rate is rising in the city of Houston, that violent crimes are up, murders are up, property crimes are up. But I want you to know, if you didn't catch it from his presentation, you should catch it from the next slide, is that our campus is one of the safest places in the city of Houston. Crime does occur, but nowhere near the magnitude, the rate, or the severity of the surrounding area and the rest of the city of Houston. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is we take our mission seriously to provide prevention, protection, preparedness to our institution. We partner with you. You're here because you care about the safety of the campus, you care about this department, and you help us most often in identifying suspicious people, in solving crimes, and keeping our campus safe. It's that partnership that makes our campus different than all the rest of the areas around us. So please continue to partner with us. Something else Covell didn't dig into too deeply, he hinted at it, but we do an exceptional job at investigating crimes once they occur. The national clearance rates for property crimes is around 17%. You can Google it, look at the FBI's UCR data. Our clearance rates are twice that, sometimes 3 times that, because of how serious we take our jobs and how good our investigators are and how our combined protection model, all of our electronic security, the video, all work together to help us catch people like Mr. Miles Patton, who like to victimize our community. Something else that we do a little differently than others is we use data to drive our decisions, and not just to drive our decisions in where to put officers and where to investigate crimes, but also in how to prevent those crimes, how to get out in front of it, how to create programs and initiatives to stop like crimes from occurring again. All municipalities don't have the resources or the time to do that. They're so busy responding from one serious crime to the other that they can't get in front of it to try to prevent it. But that's where I think we bring the most value to the institution, is we work to prevent crimes from happening. Next slide, please, Victoria. Okay, I won't beat this to death because Covell already talked all through it. We use data visualization as a tool to help us understand and analyze the crime that's going on campus. In 2022, crime started to plateau and has recently started to drop. And as Covell indicated, that's largely in part to our combined protection model and our partnership with the communities. We still have some issues with thefts and some assaults. Most of those assaults we have on campus are patient-on-patient assaults at some of our mental health care facilities like HCPC or the new Dunn building. Some of them are patient-on-staff assaults at some of our clinics and our inpatient areas. And then we have the property crimes, thefts, and the burglary of motor vehicles. If you look at the heat map at the bottom, the darker the square, the higher frequency of crime during those time periods. So it's pretty obvious when people are on campus, 8 to 5, it's pretty much when all of the crimes are reported and most of the crimes are occurring. You'll notice that Monday at 8 a.m., we have 12 crimes reported. Why is that? Generally, it's because people have left their office over the weekend, they come back in, then they discover something is wrong, and they call us and report it. And this data is for both campuses. Next slide, please. Okay, one of the trends we've been seeing a lot lately, and Covell spoke very eloquently to it, is catalytic converter thefts. This, I think we actually had a question in the chat from somebody at UT Housing. The suspects that committed to catalytic converter thefts at UT Housing were identified and have been arrested, but those suspects were different than the ones Covell spoke to in his presentation. People may not even know what a catalytic converter is. So the picture on the screen, it's this metal football-shaped tube that is under the bottom of every internal combustion engine. So if you have a motor that uses gas or diesel, you have a catalytic converter. This device is designed to filter out the harmful pollutants from an engine as it's running and make them less harmful as they go out into the environment through the muffler. But what makes that special? Well, there's platinum, palladium, rhodium, all those precious metals that Covell spoke to that are inside the catalytic converter. So individuals cut these off the vehicle and sell them to metal recycling locations or on the black market to people who want to resell them to the public as new catalytic converters. And it costs about $3,000 to replace the average catalytic converter. Next slide, please. Okay, now this comes from Google. Information is at our fingertips, and the bad guys know it too. So this is a Procore's online metal recycling buyer that tells you how much he pays for certain types of catalytic converters. So if you have a Hyundai, the catalytic converter can be sold on the black market right now between $300 and $1,000. If you have a hybrid Toyota, between $700 and $1,200. So as Covell mentioned, it's become easier for previously violent criminals who would rob you or break into your home and try to steal your money. It's easier for them. It's low risk. They can work in teams. They steal catalytic converters. They get a trunk full, and they've done a year's worth of robbery in one fell swoop. Next slide, please. Okay, some of the most often vehicles targeted for catalytic converter thefts. Toyotas make up the top of the list. And this is from 2021 statistics through HPD. Tundras, Priuses, Sequoias, Tacomas. And we've realized that on our campus as well. Most often, the catalytic converters that are stolen are from those Toyotas. You may ask why. There's several reasons. So most of these vehicles made by Toyota are high-profile vehicles. They're high off the ground. So individuals can slide up underneath them without jacking them up or needing special tools. They just slide under it with a saw and remove it. And additionally, Toyota prides themselves on being a green company. They go over and above to remove as many pollutants from their emissions as possible. And most of these vehicles have 2 catalytic converters for every exhaust pipe. So if you have a single exhaust pipe on your vehicle, you have 2 catalytic converters if you have one of these Toyotas. If you have dual pipes, you have 4 catalytic converters. So the bad guys are getting wise, and they know if they hit one Tundra that has dual exhaust, they can get 4 catalytic converters at one time. That's why those vehicles are most often impacted. Next slide, please. Okay, and Covell already touched on this. From 2019, there were only 805 catalytic converter thefts reported to the city of Houston, HPD. In 2022, and we're not quite close to the end of the year, they've had 3,016 at the time this data was reported back in February. Now that's, 3, almost 4-fold increase. So this is definitely an issue, and we're doing all we can to protect our campus using those mitigation measures that Covell mentioned, and dependent upon you, our community, to keep your eyes open when you're in our lots and our garages, and call us if you see something suspicious. If you see a vehicle driving around with paper plates occupied by 2 or 3 people, and they don't appear looking for a parking spot, they're just driving around, call us and let us know, because that's suspicious. That's one of the methods of operations, the MOs, we've seen the bad guys using. They'll operate in teams. They have a driver who's also a lookout, and they have 2 workers who actually get out, steal the converters, hop back in the car and drive off. And I have a video that shows that and shows just how quickly that can occur. Can you play that video for me, Victoria, please? Okay, before she presses play, I want you to notice this is broad daylight, the middle of a day in a decent neighborhood. It's probably one of the suburbs around the city of Houston. I forget the exact location. With this many cars in the driveway, you know that somebody has to be at home. The cars driving up and down the street, the cars in the driveways across the street, but the bad guys aren't deterred. Go ahead and press play, please. And just watch how quickly these folks operate. The team of 2, usually 3 with a driver. They're just working with a team of 2. They're targeting a Ford F-250. It was on the list of the highly targeted vehicles. Once again, no jacks needed. It's easy for a grown man to slide underneath. They had 2 saws, one on each end, and there they go, leaving with the catalytic converter, less than a minute. And I think when I timed it, it was actually more like 37 seconds. And they're gone. So understand it's difficult for law enforcement to actually catch a person still in a catalytic converter in the works, in the actual process of committing the crime. So we depend upon our electronic security and our community to pay attention and to call us when they see something going on. Next slide, please. So what can you do about it? Some of the things you can do are park in well-lit areas. Park when you're at home, park in your garage and close the garage. I know quite often we turn our garages into she sheds or hangouts, but the garages there to help us protect our belongings. So if you can park your car in the garage and close that garage and lock it, you're better off. One thing you can do is mark your catalytic converter. This picture in the bottom right is the least expensive deterrent. You use high temp paint to paint the catalytic converter, and then you etch your license plate number or your vehicle identification number or your driver's license, any identifying number that would allow law enforcement to track that catalytic converter back to you. Why is that important? Well, like Colville mentioned, we've made many arrests on individuals who had trunks full of catalytic converters. But because those weren't marked, we can't identify who the victims are. We have to catch them and prosecute them on another crime that we're able to get them for, and not always for the catalytic converter theft. So marking them helps us on the back end of the investigation. And most times when the crooks see that it's marked, they won't touch it at all because they won't be able to sell that one to a metal recycling place because they know it's been stolen. Another option is to put a skid plate on the bottom of your vehicle like that one on the top. That's a more durable solution, but it costs, I think it runs around $2,000 with labor. But when you think about it, if it's going to cost you $3,000 to replace a catalytic converter, maybe it's worth the expense. And there are all other kinds of aftermarket straps and wire cages that you can use to harden your vehicle. But no solution is 100%. But if you make your vehicle a harder target, then it's likely the bad guys will just move on to an easier target. That's all I have. I think that's my last slide, Victoria. All right, so we're at your disposal. If you have any questions, any comments, we're here to answer them.
Indeed, everyone. Thank you so much, Captain Preacher, for that update. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope everything was beneficial for you, all this information, and we appreciate you guys joining us. Be on the lookout for the future. We are going to have an entire day dedicated to UT Police, our department, and it's going to highlight careers, our people, what we do, everything that was touched on today in the different departments, you know, our threat management team and what everybody does here in the department. And that'll be a full whole day for everybody to attend. So look for that in the future. And as for National Night Out, everyone enjoy your National Night Out in your neighborhood. If you're having it tonight, we are so happy you could join us today. I'm going to wait just a few more seconds for any more questions coming out there. And if not, everybody be safe. Have a great night and happy Tuesday. Happy National Night Out Day. Thank you, everybody.
Inspector Covell, there was someone who asked if there was still an active threat for UT Housing for the catalytic converters. Is there still an active threat?
I think Captain Preacher spoke to that. She's referring to Captain Preacher, the catalytic converters over there at housing, if you want to speak to that and what we're doing about mitigating.
Yeah, we can never tell you that there's absolutely zero risk. There's always a risk. As Manny mentioned earlier, if you have those three dynamics, opportunity being the one we control, then we're at a bit of a risk. But we believe we've caught and prosecuted those people who committed the last crimes at UT Housing. So will they do serious time? How long will they be in jail? I don't have all that information, but other criminals are still out there, even though we got the latest. So always be prepared, protect your property, pay attention to your surroundings, and call us if you have any concerns. I think all of the presenters mentioned it. When the community participates in our own protection and they partner with us to help us protect them, we have the best outcome. We have the best of both worlds, because we don't have enough officers. We don't have enough public safety officers. We don't have enough people to watch video cameras, to have eyes everywhere all the time. But you're out there. So if you see something, please say something. Give us a call. You don't have to be 100% sure they are suspicious or don't belong or they committed a crime. Just call us. Hey, this looks out of place. There's a vehicle driving around. I haven't seen it here before. It doesn't appear to have any goal, and we'll go and check it out. And more often than not, when we get those kind of calls, the community is spot on. They're criminals who are out there hunting. We may not have caught them committing the crime then, but we've identified them. We'll give them a criminal trespass warning, and then we'll get them off campus. And then they'll know that we are not easy victims. So please stay alert and partner with us to help keep everybody safe. Okay, see another question, I believe. Seems like one of our attendees has a wife that lives at UT Housing, but they live in Orlando, Florida. They feel worried that at times when they hear that there were 2 burglaries with gunpoint at El Paseo and Cambridge, etc. Any updates on who did that and caught? So we have not had any robberies, armed robberies on our campus in the last few years, I think. City of Houston has had a bunch of crimes around us. We did have shots fired calls near UT Housing a few months ago. That may be what you're referring to. That was unrelated to campus, but it happened near us. I don't know the status of that HPD investigation, but we did partner with them. We did give them a video. We did give them witness information because of our interaction with the community. We had contacts and people that were employees in housing apartment complexes across the street that actually had Ring doorbell camera video and information related to the crimes that were committed. So while I can't guarantee you those people were caught, we did participate in helping HPD solve those crimes, even though they were not directly related to and attributed to our campus.
And I want to add to that, we also increased our patrol presence in and around UT Housing. And that's why, to Captain Preacher's point, we don't have that bleed over into the campus housing. Once we identified that there was a crime trend, we started asking our officers on evenings as well as nights to increase their patrols, and they did do that. And we saw where those increased patrols have kept the crime away from our campus.
Don't be shy. Any other questions? We're at your disposal. And if you think of something after the presentation, feel free to reach out to our community outreach team or look us up in the directories. Our email's there. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about your concerns.
Okay. Okay, well, again, everyone have a great evening. Enjoy your National Night Out.